A story begins in the still of the night, amidst a silent space where a strange sound echoes. Whether it was the piercingly cold wind of the late night, the moonlight flickering through the high layers of clouds, or the senses of a seasoned assassin, they all whispered. At this moment, a knight was kneeling, head bowed before someone once again. Well done. He glanced up slightly, then bowed his head again gratefully, saying, "Thank you, Lord Dyrus." The stern man standing before him was Dyrus Robert. He had long flowing hair, and an aura of coldness and mystery emanated from him, causing those who faced him to feel apprehensive. The voice in the knight's head still hadn't stopped. They said that he would die at this man's hands tonight. Dyrus gently said to the knight, bowing before him, "You have shown me a result worthy of the position of Shadow Leader. Thanks to your efforts, our family has been able to advance far beyond what it was before." The knight replied very humbly, "I only did what I needed to do, my lord." This knight's name was Rayon. Lord Dyrus looked at him and smiled knowingly. "I am truly very curious, Rayon." His gaze fixed on the shadow cast on the ground by him, he asked in a puzzling way, "Do you believe that a shadow needs freedom?" But the intelligent Rayon quickly understood Dyrus's meaning, answering decisively, while still bowing, "We Shadow Squad members only need to carry out our master's orders within us. There is no such thing as thought, emotion, or heart." Dyrus nodded in satisfaction, praising good, so you know clearly as well. Dyrus looked at Rayon again and whispered, "But if you already know this." The gentle attitude from before suddenly vanished. Dyrus's face darkened, his eyes gleamed sharply, and the surrounding space became even gloomier. He began his interrogation. "Rayon, then why did you dare to act on your own?" He looked at Rayon with mad eyes, "And how could you have escaped the brainwashing?" Rayon also felt terrified. He murmured to himself, how did he know about that? What was the issue they were both talking about? What was the whole story? What exactly was this brainwashing? Rayon suddenly remembered the painful memories clearly appearing in his mind, the way the Robert family optimized the Shadow Squad. The method by which Dyrus achieved this was by kidnapping or buying children. Not stopping there, he did even more terrible things and turned them into assassins who would dedicate their entire lives to carrying out the dirty work for the Robert family. In other words, they raised loyal dogs, for the family. Rayon was also a pitiful child who unfortunately fell into his hands. I was also brainwashed, but thanks to a chance encounter during one of my missions, I was able to break free from the shackles that had bound me. Rayon didn't expect this to be discovered by Dyrus, he briefly thought, but how could he know that I was no longer brainwashed? He asked directly, without speculating, "How did you know that, my lord?" Dyrus explained in a low voice, his fingers unconsciously twirling. "Among all the assassins, including you, there are two chains tightening your necks. The first is the brainwashing, which somehow you were able to escape." Then he snapped his fingers once, his tone decisive, and the second. Suddenly he attacked Rayon directly, his voice loud, "Is this?" Blood immediately spurted out. Rayon's eyes widened in surprise, unable to react. After a few seconds he screamed in pain, "Ah!" Rayon's hands clutched tightly at his chest. What is this pain? It feels like my heart is being sawed apart, severed." Dyrus smiled contentedly in stark contrast to the agonizing Rayon. He spoke leisurely, ignoring Rayon writhing in pain that his fan trung. Dyrus explained very patiently, "An insect has been implanted in your body. It is still following my orders, and is slowly eating away at your heart." Rayon was horrified by Dyrus's cruel act, the worst kind of black magic that could even read a slave's emotions. He gritted his teeth, struggling to speak. "Brainwashing alone wasn't enough for you. You even had to make me eat Fan Trung. Even after doing such things, you still put on a noble and virtuous facade. You are truly a despicable bastard, Dyrus." Dyrus was extremely calm. He said arrogantly, "That's called being careful, not despicable. Don't forget, you were able to escape being brainwashed." He declared his life philosophy condescendingly. "People say everyone wears a mask. It's just that my mask is a bit thicker and more special than others." Rayon couldn't think any further. He only knew that his greatest enemy in life was him. He engraved the name Dyrus Robert deeply into his mind. That painful past suddenly flooded back. "I was kidnapped at an age when I could hardly remember anything. Those days Rayon could never forget. He recalled being raised as a hunting dog and assassin for the Robert family. Even when I became a shadow leader, I lived without a heart or emotions. The turning point in Rayon's life began, but thanks to a lucky encounter, I was able to learn a technique called the Fire Eye, and that technique proved to be a special ability of the strongest swordsman on the continent from a long time ago, which could help me escape the brainwashing. Rayon drifted in the stream of memories. I thought I could finally escape the Shadow Squad and dreamed of ultimate freedom. I had finally hoped the resentment made him scream in despair. But why is death, not freedom, what awaits me at the end of the road? Rayon continued to lament, his body weakening and collapsing to the ground. But there are still so many things binding me. What crime have I committed? Why do I have to die such a meaningless death? The more down thought, the angrier he became. The resentment in his heart grew stronger. He gritted his teeth, his hand clenching into a tight fist, slamming down on the cold ground. Damn it, I can't let things end like this. A sliver of remaining willpower helped Rayon rise. He resolved, if I'm going to die here anyway. Seeing Rayon struggle to stand, Dearest was slightly taken aback. He stared blankly. How can you still stand in that condition? Rayon didn't bother to pay attention to his bewildered question. He used his hand to support himself on the ground, adopting a posture as if preparing to attack his mind, constantly urging himself, if this is my end. Rayon gritted his teeth, his eyes blazing. He told himself he would take his hand, or at least injure him before he died. In the silent night, Rayon roared with immense power. He screamed silently, I will not die such a pathetic death. His entire body lunged towards Dyrus. He seemed calm, not bothering to move at all, standing still in place. Rayon's eyes at this moment only held Dyrus, his enemy. But his injured body was not in good condition to face a cold-blooded man like Dyrus. He swung his sword decisively, and blood spurted out again. Rayon once again collapsed on the cold ground, his eyes wide open, struggling for breath. Dira stood watching him lying there, gasping weakly. But Dyrus's gaze towards Rayon also held a hint of something different. He was surprised even though I blocked that blow. Dyrus turned and walked away, but his mind was still occupied with Rayon, even though he was just trash. But not only did he escape the brainwashing, he could also endure the pain from the fan trung and attack me. How long has it been? He looked at his bleeding hand. How many years has it been since I was last injured to be bitten by a hunting dog I trained? It's unbelievable. Dyrus glanced back slightly, thinking to himself, but there's no need to worry about him anymore because he's already dead. Then he ordered his subordinates dispose of him. Rayon's eyes remained fixed on Dyrus's retreating figure. Dyrus was considered one of the strongest warriors on the entire continent. Rayon consoled himself. It was inevitable that I would lose. He's strong and I'm weak. How could I possibly fight back? However, Rayon's eyes still stared fixedly ahead, but I don't accept it. The ghost of the past flooded back. I regret living this life for no reason. Another ghost was Dyrus. He prevented him from leaving in peace. I regret being played by Dyrus my whole life. The greatest regret that bound Rayon made him exclaim, and I deeply regret not being able to complete the Fire Eye. Prayers began to echo. Whether it was a god or even a demon, anyone would do so, please. Rayon was earnestly pleading, please do something and give me a chance to take revenge on Dyrus. The insignia on Rayon's chest suddenly glowed. A strange phenomenon occurred. You have been chosen by wrath. Wrath will enter your body, dead body error. After the night stained with blood and that resentment, the sun rose high again. Warm sunlight filled the space. There was a gentle cry, Sunlight. That gentle voice belonged to this beautiful girl, Sunlight. Look at Mum, my sunshine. The baby in the crib raised tiny hands, babbling, Abba, Mum. The baby's parents chuckled. Very good now, what is this? The surprisingly intelligent baby immediately replied, Abu. The mother hugged the baby tightly, her face radiant, her eyes full of happiness. Oh my adorable sunshine, who do you take after to be so cute? Ah, woo. But this baby didn't seem to be a normal baby. It looked at its mother, pondering like an adult. I'm still not used to this. The woman holding me is Sylvia. Sylvia gently lifted her child again. The boy thought to himself, I still can't believe it. She smiled brightly and said, Say, Mommy, Mummy. The baby looked intently at its mother, without any more doubts. Dayon is in this form. I have been reincarnated as this woman's child. Rayon recalled that he still retained the memories of his previous life as an assassin. When he opened his eyes, Rayon was extremely confused. At first I even thought this was a dream, and did I sleep for 100 days? Why haven't I woken up yet? However, no matter how much he slept, he finally accepted the truth that he had been reborn. Sylvia held Rayon in her arms, gazing at the scenery outside. The weather is so beautiful today, isn't it, dear? Sylvia looked into the distance, hoping, I hope the Lord will return soon. She said with hope then, he will be able to give you a beautiful name. Rayon looked at his mother, his eyes slightly sad. It's a bit strange to be called by a nickname all the time, isn't it? Rayon thought briefly, not seeing his child for 100 days. He must be very busy thinking so. His mouth babbled to please his mother. Ah, boo! The place where Rayon now lived was a vast, magnificent and splendid space. Just a glance revealed its affluence and luxury. Rayon thought to himself, I haven't been able to explore much since being reborn, but at least I know this is a fairly wealthy family belonging to the upper class. Even the bedroom is decorated lavishly and splendidly, completely different from the gloomy environment of Rayon's previous life. I guess being reborn into a powerful and wealthy family is better than an ordinary one. But even though he lived in love and abundance now, Rayon still held that yearning in his heart. He told himself being reborn into this wealthy life is good, because I need to take revenge. Rayon had never forgotten Dyrus's ruthless face. One thing he still clearly remembered was the fury and hatred he had felt in his heart before he died. But I need to be patient. Reborn, but in the form of a child, Rayon basically couldn't do much. Because until now he had only been confined to this room. I don't know where this is. I also don't know my position or what situation I'm in. Baby Rayon mused further, moreover, because I haven't been able to complete the fire eye technique, I must endure patiently. In his previous life, he had once been called the greatest assassin of the Robert family. Now, fortunately, reborn Rayon lived for only one purpose, to wait for the day he could take revenge on Dyrus. Rayon had to try his best to suppress his emotions and desires until the time was ripe. Baby Rayon looked around warily again, but this only made him more curious. The brilliance and size of this mansion were more than just upper class. Suddenly, Rayon's eyes fixed intently on something. Sylvia's maid Helen rushed in anxiously. Lady Sylvia, she shouted from the entrance of the room, the Lord is returning. Sylvia stammered in shock. Father is Rayon was surprised. Father, does that mean the Lord is my grandfather? Sylvia became flustered. We need to prepare something. Helen anxiously interrupted. It's too late. He's already at the door, she exclaimed. Oh no. Worry was clearly etched on Sylvia's face. Both she and Helen looked towards the door. Rayon also curiously followed their gaze, then was stunned and bewildered. What the heck is this presence? From outside the door, 3 figures silently entered, announcing the return of the Lord. The Lord's footsteps were heavy and powerful enough to convey this pressure with his mere presence. He had golden hair and a tall, muscular build. Rayon stared blankly, muttering. The more he looked, the more astonished Rayon became. No way. If I'm not mistaken, this person is. Sylvia could only worry, stammering, Father. Without any greetings, he asked directly, is this the child? Rayon stared intently at the Lord, I'm sure. He slowly pieced together the fragments of his memory, an elderly man with hair that shone like sunlight, eyes the fiery red of flames, and a face colder than ice, the master of the continent's greatest family, the destruction king of the North, Glen Zarat. Glen looked at Rayon with a somewhat stern gaze. It seems that somehow. Rayon, with his big round eyes, looked up at his grandfather in his heart. He excitedly exclaimed, I've been reborn into the strongest family on the continent. The question that followed clearly showed surprise. You want to keep him? Rayon thought to himself, an unpleasant fate. Lord Glen reached out and picked up the baby, saying, from today onwards this child's name is Rayon. Just like his name suggests, live and exist quietly, like a shadow, as if you are not here. Rayon stared blankly at his grandfather. After going through life and death, I also have a new name. After saying that, he turned and left. Rayon happily murmured his new name, Rayon. It was late at night, and the surroundings were silent. Rayon guessed that they were all asleep now. He sat up, his tiny, adorable figure, a stark contrast to his previous gloomy demeanor. It was 100 boring days, but now I have a chance. His body had become one with the baby's, so his habits were also like a baby's. Rayon, thought to himself. I suddenly feel sleepy every now and then. Rayon recalled, and whenever I woke up, Sylvia was always by my side. I can't even control mana or anything anymore. At least, it's quite a relief that I can sleep alone in the crib, but the remaining reason helped Rayon sit up again. All right, let's begin. He began to cultivate again the fire heart condensation. The sacred space of mountains and forests appeared in his mind. Ordinary continental martial artists used breathing to allow mana from nature and aura to accumulate in their core. The fire heart obtained through special catalysts was different. Rayon concentrated intensely. Just like a mage creating a mana circle, it would create a circle around the heart. This increased endurance and stimulated the growth of the body while also enhancing willpower and mana affinity. Therefore, this method allowed a person to obtain the ideal conditions to become a warrior. The more Rayon thought, the more excited he became. That's the ultimate cultivation technique. He was very confident in his path. Another advantage is that even a genius like Dyrus wouldn't be able to detect whether the fire heart exists or not. So Rayon steadfastly cultivated, above all, if I cultivate my body and mind, using the fire heart Rayon, although in a different form, now still had the same thoughts and make Dyrus's swordsmanship my own. Thinking of this, Rayon was very happy. Then the revenge against Dyrus Robert will no longer be a pipe dream. Then he looked at his tiny body. Maybe it's due to this body's constitution that my mana channels are full of coldness. This is why my whole body remains cold, even if I sleep for 20 hours or many hours. Baby Rayon closed his eyes again, focusing his mind mana blockage. Or is it the 9 heavens? This is serious at this rate. I'll die from the cold air blocking my magic circuits. He told himself he needed to clear the meridians with the fire heart. On the other hand, it would be a bit of a waste to just get rid of this bone-chilling cold. I'll combine it with the fiery heat in my body and circulate them. On the desolate grass in the forest, rustling sounds occasionally echoed. Rayon thought to himself, letting out a small sigh of relief. All right, it might be a bit slow, but it's quite stable next, huh? Baby Rayon protested to the adult Rayon inside. Rayon lay down. Are you already tired after just a little bit of training, you? Damn this tiny weak body down cursed, I can't after a while. Baby Rayon had fallen asleep. Lord Glenn silently watched his grandson sleeping soundly in the crib. He gently cast a spell on his grandson. Then he left. Day broke again. Baby Rayon crawled on the ground, his face as if protesting something, a boo-boo. Sylvia stood beside him, encouraging Bee-boo. Our Rayon is so cute. Crawl some more, papa, ooh. In his heart, Daon cursed silently. Playing with this mother is so tiring. My soul is an adult, but I'm forced to act like a baby. I'm about to die. Sylvia finally picked up Rayon, caressing and praising him. There's nothing Daon can do. Huh, so cute, I'd rather bear the cold. She continuously spoke sweet words to her child, our cute baby Rayon. Just then there was a clanking sound outside. Sylvia, are you here? Hearing this, Sylvia exclaimed joyfully, Ah, old man. No, Saint Fan. Saint Fan smiled gently and kindly, true to his title, Saint. Just call me old man here. Rayon was bewildered. This person is Saint Fan. It turned out that Saint Fan, despite his approachable appearance, was an influential figure. His holy power and divine arts were said to be among the best on the continent. He was the most famous healer on the continent, but his wandering nature made him as hard to meet as reaching the sky. Saint Fan looked at baby Rayon. I was passing by and came to visit you because I heard you just had a child. Is this him? Ah, yes. He lifted Rayon up high and smiled kindly. Oh, golden hair and red eyes. Just like you, Sylvia smiled. Yes, aren't they beautiful? Saint Fan commented a few times. The little guy is really cute, so different from Glenn, completely different. So what's this child's name? Name. Sylvia was a little flustered as she introduced the baby. His name is Daon. Saint Fan glanced slightly, not intentionally named with the meaning of darkness, was it? Sylvia nodded. That's right. Saint Fan looked at Rayon, his expression slightly displeased upon hearing the name, naming a child darkness. What was Glenn thinking? Rayon stared intently at Saint Fan. He doesn't seem to fit his title at all. Could there be some connection between them? I heard that the Destruction King of the North and Saint Fan are friends, but if that's true... Saint Fan smiled gently and softly, saying to Rayon, Let this old man take a look, little one. He placed his hand on the small chest. Sylvia silently watched Saint Fan hummed and then said, "The child's condition is not good." Sylvia asked anxiously, Is there something wrong with him? This child is afflicted with an ice curse inside." He handed Rayon back to Sylvia, briefly explaining the situation to her. The child's mana channels are blocked by fragments of ice, leaving aside the fact that he will have difficulty becoming a swordsman in the future. He said something that made Sylvia's spirits plummet. If not treated, the child will die at this rate. He won't live long. Sylvia panicked. "You're lying." But Saint Fan remained very serious. "I will give you some medicine to sustain him. Saint, please forgive me." Helen bowed her head to announce, "Master is calling for you. I will lead the way. I'm done here. So I'll go," Master said, "to bring you immediately." Saint Fan irritably sighed. This guy always calls at the wrong time." "So he left, I understand now. So it's an ice curse." Well knowing the name doesn't change anything, Rayon watched his retreating figure. A drop of water fell on baby Rayon's face. "Don't tell me it's because of the fire heart." Sylvia was sobbing, her body trembling. She looked at the tiny child in her arms, tears streaming down her cheeks. She exclaimed as if wanting to deny all of Saint Fan's instructions. "He's lying." Sylvia sobbed. "I can't lose my child like this. Who says you're going to die? It's absurd." She hugged Rayon tightly to her chest. "I will do everything to heal you. Your mother will do whatever it takes. You can't go. Rayon, don't be sick." Rayon in his previous life was a child who lacked affection and was trained as a cold-blooded assassin. It had been a long time since he had felt this kind of loving embrace. Rayon's eyes widened. "What is this feeling? My heart aches. My whole body aches. It hurts." The thought, "I don't want to see this," was firmly etched in Rayon's mind. He wanted to touch Sylvia and tell her not to cry. Baby Rayon raised his tiny hand and wiped away his mother's tears. Sylvia stared blankly at her child's unexpected action. Baby Rayon still tried to reach out and caress his mother's cheek. Like any other baby, Rayon uttered his first word, "Mammy." Rayon called again, "Mammy." At this moment, Glenn and Saint Fan were talking to each other when they heard a distressed cry. "Lady Sylvia, you can't stop. Please, what's all this noise?" Helen was trying to stop Sylvia. "You can't." Sylvia burst into the room where Lord Glenn was discussing business, shouting, "Lady Sylvia, Master is." She panted, looking at her father. He frowned slightly, scolding, "What is this impudence?" His stern gaze fell upon his daughter, this clumsy and shameful child. Sylvia suddenly knelt down. "Father, I beg you." She bowed her head to the ground, pleading with her father, Father, please save Rayon." Sylvia frantically begged her father, please save Rayon." She said between choked sobs, "Surely, Father, you know the child's condition, but he is everything to me. Please save my Rayon." Glenn replied extremely calmly, "Since the child certainly cannot survive as a warrior, why should I save a child who cannot benefit the family?" Sylvia tried to persuade him. "Isn't the child your grandson?" Glenn asked sternly. "The grandson you brought back after running away from home, you mean?" He continuously uttered cold and profound words. "The only thing I will do is allow him to bear the Zarat name. Consider that the small amount of luck I will grant him, but that's all." Hearing her father's words, Sylvia was unwilling. She cried out, "Father." Glenn coldly ordered, "I have nothing more to say. Take her out." Sylvia still tried to plead until the very last moment. "Father, please." She begged between choked sobs, "Please save Rayon." Despite being rejected with a mother's heart, how could Glenn's indifference stop Sylvia from pleading for her child? She repeated, "Please, Rayon." But in the end, she was dragged out of the room. Saint Fan watched Sylvia until the door slammed shut. He sighed and said to Glenn, "You're as stubborn as ever, aren't you?" Saint Fan looked at his friend earnestly. "Is it really that difficult? Why did you do that when you were the one who told me to come check on your grandson?" Glenn abruptly brushed aside the topic, saying, "Quiet, tell me the details of the child's condition." Saint Fan began to report. "As I said, his 9 mana channels are blocked due to cold energy, and the older he gets, the more dangerous his condition will become." Saint Fan also knew that Glenn had cast a spell on Rayon last night because you pushed back the cold energy with your aura. There won't be any problems, but as I said, your grandson will not be able to become a warrior. Glenn took a small sip of tea and said, As long as the child is alive, that doesn't matter. Saint Fan wondered, your behavior is completely different from before. Surely you still love your grandson, right? He immediately questioned what had been bothering him. But if you intended to do that, why name your grandson Rayon? There are many good names, so why that name? Glenn sighed softly, then explained, Rayon doesn't only mean darkness. His stern and pensive expression was reflected in the glass 1,000 years ago. It had a completely opposite meaning. Inside Sylvia and Rayon's mansion, she gently fed Rayon the medicine, coaxing Rayon, this is the elixir that Saint Fan gave you. It's a little bitter, but please try to bear with it. Not only was Rayon uncomfortable, but even adults like Helen and Sylvia felt like vomiting just from smelling it. Rayon babbled a boo-boo. Sylvia peeked open her eyes and saw Rayon reaching out his hand, wanting to be held, tugging at her clothes. Sylvia and Helen exclaimed joyfully, he swallowed it. Rayon endured the bitterness and drank it. Helen added, that's right. Even though the medicine is very bitter for a small child, he surely understands people's hearts. She hugged Rayon tightly, tears starting to fall again. She affectionately called her child's name Rayon. Rayon looked outside dreamily, thinking a bit bitter, but a divine medicine with fire attribute, exactly what I need right now. The heat will push back the cold energy in my mana channels. Sylvia sobbed again. You understand your mother's heart, baby. Rayon finally reached a new age. The boy could now speak clearly, no longer just babbling single sounds. Please give me more divine medicine. Time flew by quickly. 2 years had passed since I started training and drinking the divine medicine. Baby Rayon was a little bigger now. He looked at his hands, very happy that they were gradually gaining fire energy. Thanks to this, I was able to achieve the fire heart faster. Rayon's condition had improved a lot. His fire heart had reached 1 star. Every passing day was a day the fire heart within Rayon was cultivated and accumulated further, and another 2 years of persistent training passed. Little Rayon did many things every day. My normal schedule would include playing with Sylvia and Helen in the morning. There probably isn't a child on this continent as busy as me, and spending time napping in the afternoon and training at night. Time continued to pass like that, and I was now 5 years old. Rayon's abilities had improved a lot at this point. Having reached the 2nd Fire Heart star, your soul has become slightly stronger with the effect of the 2-star Fire Heart magic power has increased with the effect of the 2-star Fire Heart willpower has increased with the effect of the 2-star Fire Heart strength has increased with the effect of the 2-star Fire Heart. He smiled in satisfaction. The boy carefully read each word, smiling excitedly. Finally done it. I've created the 2nd Fire Heart star. Rayon looked noticeably brighter. With the 2nd Fire Heart star, the flame had now turned into a cross shape. His sensitivity to mana had increased a bit, all thanks to this message. While engrossed in studying, a call from outside the door woke him. Oh dear, young master. Helen stepped into the room. You're already awake. I'll take your clothes to be washed, Rayon replied quickly. Yeah, go ahead. Rayon watched Helen diligently working. He pondered, just as I thought, she can't see this message window. The window updating Rayon's progress had appeared since he was just reborn. I've seen this window and my status since achieving the 1st Fire Heart star. Little Rayon was very confused at first. I wasn't sure what it was, but with my inherent intelligence and keen senses, I quickly realized it was a convenient system that allowed me to see my condition at a glance. Status window condition: 1st Fire Heart, star bone chilling cold, poor endurance. Baby Rayon was very startled when Helen suddenly entered, but he observed her expression and concluded, judging by Helen's reaction, just now it seems she can't see these message lines. Rayon scratched his chin, lost in thought. Even so, the poor physical condition and the ice curse haven't changed, even though I've reached 2 stars. If I hadn't drunk the fire attribute divine medicine, how difficult would it have been to reach 2 stars? He mused, and it's not just the divine medicine. Rayon thought for a long time. Surely Sylvia, Helen, and the other people in the annex have also contributed to this over the past 5 years, so their care must have helped somewhat. Helen had left, leaving Rayon alone in the room with a whirlwind of thoughts in his head. The boy sighed. Even so, I'm only 5 years old. I still have a lot of time, no need to rush. So the reason little Raon was often tired wasn't just because he was a baby, but because his body was afflicted with a very complicated ice curse. The poor endurance was also due to that. That's why I got tired easily, even with normal movements. But Raon quickly regained his spirits. However, in my past life, I was known as the best assassin. Now I even know the best training method, the fire heart with my past experience as a foundation. As long as I can obtain the fire heart, those bad physical conditions will completely disappear. Furthermore, if I learn Zarat's swordsmanship, I will definitely be able to kill Dyrus. But Raon quickly regained his spirits. However, in my past life, I was known as the best assassin. Now I even know the best training method, the fire heart with my past experience as a foundation. As long as I can obtain the fire heart, those bad physical conditions will completely disappear. Furthermore, if I learn Zarat's swordsmanship, I will definitely be able to kill Dyrus. But Raon quickly regained his spirits. However, in my past life, I was known as the best assassin. Now I even know the best training method, the fire heart, with my past experience as a foundation. As long as I can obtain the fire heart, those bad physical conditions will completely disappear. Furthermore, if I learn Zarat's swordsmanship, I will definitely be able to kill Dyrus. So Raon could only encourage himself. Well, then I'll train a little more. Just then Sylvia entered. You're awake. Little Raon looked at his mother with an innocent expression. Sylvia held Raon's clothes in her hand. She said, "Do you remember Mum telling you that we have to go somewhere together, get changed and ready, then come to the main building?" Raon glanced up slightly, asking absent-mindedly, "Is today that day?" Raon drifted again into his thoughts. The 6 kings and the 5 demons have maintained the balance of power on the continent. And Raon was fortunate enough to become a part of that, because the Zarat family, the family I was reborn into, is one of the 6 kings, the boy. Raon sat with his mother in the carriage, looking at the scenery outside. The 6 kings bestowed good fortune, while the 5 demons threatened peace. Besides them, other forces also had a ritual of judgment to decide whether someone was good or bad, and today was the Zarat ritual. Inside a room, a party was filled with people, mostly upper-class nobles. They chatted animatedly. "It's been a long time, hasn't it? This is the first time we've met again since last year's judgment ritual, right? It's because I was so busy with overseas missions, so, haha. Are there any direct descendants participating this year?" Small and large whispers never ceased. "I heard it's Karen's 4th son, haha. I also heard it's Sylvia." As soon as Sylvia and Raon entered, they heard unpleasant words. What Sylvia? That failure, really. Seeing her enter the room fell silent. All eyes turned to the two of them. Everyone looked at Sylvia and little Raon with a somewhat prejudiced and distant attitude. Sylvia tightly held Raon's hand, walking amidst the murmurs. "So that's Sylvia's son. The little guy is so small, I heard he's sick. The rumors must be true. How could it be avoided? He inherited the blood of a failure task. Should I call him the offspring of a failure?" After a while, the murmurs still hadn't subsided. "It's unbelievable that she's allowed to set foot in here. Do we need to perform a judgment ritual for the child of a failure? I really hope I won't have to see them again. Honestly, the standards have really dropped." Raon was also upset by this. He had been reborn into the family, so he couldn't avoid the uncomfortable feeling of being gossiped about and having the direct descendants slander him. So much. Is there something I don't know? I don't care about being cursed at, but... The two of them continued to walk silently amidst the insults. She really has no shame. Raon was startled by this statement. The little boy stopped in his tracks. Sylvia quickly noticed and hurriedly comforted her son. "It's okay, Raon." The little boy looked up at his mother. Sylvia still wore a gentle smile, softly saying, "Just look at Mum." Raon understood and stopped worrying. An announcement was made. "The Lord is entering." Calm footsteps entered. Raon also looked up following those footsteps. It's been a long time, probably 5 years, right? His grandfather, Lord Glenn, had entered. He sat imposingly on the gilded chair in the main hall. He was Raon's grandfather, the best assassin of the Robert family, Glenn Zarat. Glenn slowly began to speak. "It seems everyone has gathered." Suddenly he clapped his hands as a signal. Immediately from above, a giant sword shot straight down. Rayon's eyes widened as he stared intently. Is that the Sword of Judgment? Glenn announced, begin the judgment ritual. Glenn quickly signaled his subordinates. Following his signal, a sword was shot straight down. Everyone looked up. Just then Glenn declared powerfully, begin the judgment ritual. Little Rayon's eyes widened. Is that the Sword of Judgment? If you place your hand on the sword, it can tell you the extent of a person's mana talent. Glenn's subordinate began reading from the list. Let's begin the first person, Biden Regas. On the upper floor, a child about Rayon's age answered clearly, yes, sir. The boy Biden stepped down and touched the sword. A child's skull has a part at the top that isn't fully formed. It only starts to close and fuse together when they are 4 years old. After that, their mana potential won't change anymore. As soon as Biden touched the holy sword, that happened. That's why the children are gathered, to find out the extent of their mana talent in this judgment ritual. Everyone who saw it clapped and praised endlessly. He has the wind attribute look. The whole sword is glowing. His mana quality is also the best. A prodigious talent, truly, Lord Karen's son. Glenn also nodded. This attribute isn't bad. Very suitable for a swordsman. You should focus on feeling the energy of the wind. The next name was called. Next is Runan Sulian from the Chuhal Sulian family. Rayon stood watching. He was confident he could see how this sword worked. The light on the blade will show the purity of mana, and the mana attribute is shown at the end of the hilt. Rayon suddenly understood, so this is how he determines other people's talents. Zarat. Runan was also praised by everyone as a genius from the Sulian family. It's not for nothing that she bears the Sulian name. She's related to Lord Biden, only Rayon was disgusted. Everyone in this family is obsessed with the word talent. He also knew his own fate. I guess my results won't be good, even though I successfully reached the second Fireheart star. There's still a lot of cold air from the ice curse in my mana channels. Well, I don't care anyway. The subordinate read again, you are the last one. Everyone focused intently. The name called was Zarat. Glenn suddenly became more focused, his gaze also becoming more anxious than before. Rayon stepped forward as called, please step forward. Sylvia gently said, let's go round. Yes, Mom. Rayon didn't show any expression like the other kids before him. I'm not expecting anything. I just need to check which attribute will suit this body and which attribute I should develop in the future. Sylvia smiled gently and kindly, saying, have you seen how the other children did it? Just do exactly the same. Rayon replied, yes, Mom, I know. Little Ron sighed. Rayon gently reached out and lightly touched the blade of the sword. Contrary to the gentle and flattering light from before, as soon as Rayon touched the holy sword, it immediately emitted a brilliant golden light, looking like a burning flame. Rayon stared blankly, wondering what is that light. The little boy's eyes became dreamy. What appeared before Rayon's eyes now was the image of hundreds of monsters with different shapes. He muttered to himself, what kind of scene am I seeing? Rayon looked on in utter bewilderment. Little Rayon sat on the ground, looking at the figure in front of him, asking, who is this person? The man was holding his sword high, an extraordinary pressure radiating from him. He swung his sword decisively, and the monsters were quickly defeated. The monsters disappeared, leaving behind only an eerie light. Rayon stared intently. The bewildered little boy exclaimed, why is the stone sword? Mocking judgments echoed around. Look, the light hasn't even reached halfway up the sword. Glenn quickly ordered, the judgment ritual is over. You may leave. Everyone quickly left, not bothering to hide the contemptuous smiles on their lips. Smiles they only reserved for Rayon and his mother. The butler respectfully said, let's go, young Master Biden. The last guest stepped out and the door slammed shut. Glenn remained seated in his chair. He said sternly, I suppose there was nothing to be done, my lord? Glenn hadn't expected much anyway, so he wasn't too disappointed or embarrassed. I thought that was all the child was capable of. I didn't have any expectations for this child anyway. Suddenly Glenn noticed something. The stone sword was still glowing, the light becoming brighter and brighter. Glenn looked on in astonishment. The stone sword is emitting. He frowned, thinking of the 5 words golden light of the sun's radiance. The aura that the first patriarch of Zarat possessed was a terrifying power, strong enough to harmonize even demonic fire. He recalled the words he had read, golden mana and golden fire. This brilliant golden mana has only appeared once. Glenn pondered for a long time throughout the history of the Zarat family. The light before his eyes reminded him of something. It was beautifully radiant with a dazzling golden hue. It was golden fire. The more Glenn thought, the more astonished he became. Rayon, this grandchild. The next morning, Rayon received new information. Status window, name Rayon, Zarat title, none condition, 9 heavens. Ice curse, poor stamina. Reduced physical energy, reduced mana. Affinity attribute, 2. Star fire heart, 2. Star water. Resistance, alright. Rayon smiled contentedly. Looks like I'm about to reach the 3rd fire heart star. 7 years had passed since the first judgment ritual. Cold time flowed by. Rayon had grown much taller. The expression on his face, though still somewhat naive, was much different than before. I'm 12 years old now. Rayon drifted again in his thoughts. 7 years since the judgment ritual, and with regular training, my 2 fire heart stars are about to increase in power. Little Rayon sat on the lush green grass, pondering for a long time. If I could cure the ice curse, my growth rate would be much faster. My water resistance has increased to 2 stars, and the cold phenomenon spreading throughout my body is also gone, so my limbs are no longer stiff. Of course, moving my body is still very difficult, but it's much better than before. So Rayon told himself, I have to start exercising too. While sitting still, he suddenly heard someone call his name Rayon. It was his mother, Sylvia. She said, "You need to get ready. What are you doing here? Let's go. We'll be late." Rayon replied with a deep expression. Yes, it's time for me to participate in the 2nd judgment ritual. I'll probably have to see those incomprehensible things again. After a few hours the ritual ended. Everyone quickly greeted each other. Finally, Glenn Zarat said, "You have all worked hard. The judgment ritual is now concluded." Rayon sat silently for a long time, thinking perhaps it's because only those from the side branches are here that everything went faster than I thought. Finally, his name was called Rayon Zarat. Glenn said sternly to his grandson, "Surely you have received the order to participate in the basic training as a member of the family. Why haven't you responded after a month?" Rayon looked blankly at his grandfather. What is he talking about, basic training? Sylvia hurriedly came to her son's rescue. Father, Rayon is different from the other children. He still has the ice curse in his body, so training is still too much for him. So mother hid it from me. Rayon understood as he watched his mother's actions. Sylvia knew about this. Glenn declared coldly, "This place is Zarat territory." He frowned, his face clearly serious. "There are no exceptions or refusals for those who bear the Zarat name. If you can't walk, then crawl there and train. A Zarat must have that kind of spirit." Sylvia pleaded frantically, No, please, father. Please give me some time." Glenn replied with an angry tone that shocked Sylvia. "If not, are you planning to run away again, taking that child with you?" Glenn threw harsh words at his only daughter on this land. "You can only live as a member of the Zarat family. If you don't like it, then get out of here right now." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone burst into another uproar. What is she planning to run away again? This will be interesting. Now she doesn't even have the core energy or mana channels left to destroy it. Unbelievable that someone like that is a direct descendant. Rayon watched his mother endure humiliation and finally realized, so that's why Sylvia was treated this way. There's no new reason at all, Rayon understood. It was because she had left this family. He carefully pieced together each detail. Sylvia doesn't have any aura, even though she learned martial arts. That means she shattered her core energy, and her mana channels were completely destroyed. After that, Mom left home and met my father and married him. Fate didn't smile on Sylvia, but after she became pregnant with me, my father died and she had no choice but to return home. Sylvia was powerless. Knowing she couldn't persuade her stubborn father, she turned to leave. Rayon looked at his mother. Because she abandoned her position in the direct lineage and now returned, she has to endure treatment, even worse than a member of an outer family. However, that was the others' perspective and their own situation. The figure of the assassin Rayon, carrying a suffocating aura, brushed past, making Sylvia flinch slightly. But turning her head, she didn't see any assassin, only her son. Rayon, the little boy filled with arrogant momentum, striding proudly forward. Rayon thought to himself, and as Sylvia's son, I cannot bear to see my mother treated like this. Seeing Rayon walk forward, Sylvia cried out, Rayon! What are you doing? Come back here, young master. Mother will handle this, so please. Rayon reassured his mother, his gaze extremely firm. It's all right, Mom. He stepped forward and said to Glenn clearly, by your order, I will participate in the training starting next month as you commanded. At this moment, Daniel, who was sitting in the same row as Glenn, spoke up. But you don't even know that there's training. He was also worried about Rayon, whatever it's called. Basic training isn't at a level that a sick person can endure. You should withdraw immediately. Facing the advice and judgmental gazes, Rayon only said loudly and clearly, I already bear the Zarat name. Therefore I will have to pay the price for it. I will participate in the training. Glenn frowned angrily, scolding, you dare to defile the Zarat name. Do you understand the gravity of mentioning the Zarat name? The pressure that Glenn emitted made Rayon slightly afraid. He looked at his grandfather, his face paling. Suddenly a few drops of blood trickled down. A feeling of terror was evident in Rayon's eyes, which widened in shock as if his flesh was being torn apart, piece by piece. Rayon's hands trembled as he tried to clench them to maintain his composure. Even just a glance can affect me this much. It feels like my heart is twisting. It's even affecting me more than Robert's did. The question arose in Rayon's mind, is this truly the warrior, the destruction king of the north? Sylvia hurriedly ran over and hugged Rayon tightly. My lord, Rayon is still young, so he doesn't know what he's saying. Daniel also spoke up. My lord, the boy is just a child who doesn't know anything. Please withdraw the pressure you're putting on him. Glenn's voice rose, his words carrying a terrible weight that immediately terrified the listeners I am speaking. Daniel stammered, I apologize, sir. Sylvia still tried to plead, her arms tightly around Rayon. Our father, Rayon's health can't handle training. Please, please withdraw the pressure. Rayon had been in shock since before. He murmured to himself, assassins are people who must live in the shadows. Being an assassin means every moment is closer to death than life. They will never reveal themselves. Rayon's past urged the 12-year-old Rayon forward, but I am no longer the assassin I used to be. Little Rayon turned his head to look at his former self. Rayon reminded himself, I will no longer live in the shadows. 12-year-old Rayon stared intently at his old self, telling himself, I will no longer live as an assassin. Little Rayon gritted his teeth, sweat pouring down. Rayon repeatedly said his desire in his mind, I am Rayon Zarat, and I will bring Sylvia back to her rightful place. The boy continued clearly, no, I don't know, because I grew up in an annex mansion, not the main building. I don't know how arrogant the Zarat name is. That's why I want to see with my own eyes what the real Zarat is like by participating in the training. Little Rayon, reborn and living happily every day, was now cared for and raised by Sylvia. As Rayon, I will protect Sylvia. The happiness and smiles of those precious to me. Since his rebirth, yearning and love had quietly revived Rayon's once barren and corrupted heart. For the first time in his life, he wanted to fight for the lives of others, not to take them away because of this. Rayon told himself, I must reclaim my mother's honor. I will surely take back everything with these very hands. Glenn's anger had subsided, but his stern attitude remained. You mean you will judge the Zarat clan through that basic training? Rayon replied without hesitation, right now that is the only way for me to learn about the Zarat clan. Hearing this, Glenn said, then, I will have to inspect everything to ensure that the instructors have prepared adequately. He tried his best, hoping not to disappoint his grandson. After exerting himself like that, Rayon staggered and fell. In my past life, I was the best assassin, and now I am someone who has learned about the legends of the continent, the Fire Heart. If I can utilize all the power from them, gaining a high position in the family isn't impossible. But even as he fell, Rayon's hand remained clenched, the thought echoing in his mind. I will show you how hard the pebble you despise is. The young boys of the family were training enthusiastically. Karun sat in his room, arms crossed, somewhat suspicious. Isn't that kid a patient who can't even move? He was the master of the martial heart hall, Karun Zarat. His secretary beside him hurriedly reported, yes, only 1 or 2 maids overheard the conversation between Saint Fan and the Lord. It's certain that the young master was very ill. Karun pondered back, when I saw the kid, his body wasn't normal either. How could he withstand my pressure? Karun cleared his throat and said, now that I think about it, Sylvia was also the most talented person back then. He ordered his secretary plant some spies in the annex mansion, understood. In the garden, Rayon tried his best to train. Every day he always tried to act as fast as possible. Sylvia followed right behind, afraid that Rayon would overexert himself and get sick, so she anxiously called out, "Rayon, don't push yourself too hard." But Rayon still tried his best. At training ground number 5, Glenn strode in amidst everyone's greetings. "Let's all welcome the Patriarch's visit, welcome, Lord." Elsewhere, Reimer was lying on a sofa with his hat covering his eyes. Suddenly a voice rang out, "Stop pretending to sleep and get up, Reimer." He jumped up and was surprised to see Glenn. "Oh my God, unbelievable." He smiled and said, "You're the only one who sees through my expert napping skills, Patriarch." Glenn crossed his arms reproachfully, looking at the sweating trainers running back and forth, while Reimer was leisurely sitting there. "Why are you so relaxed here?" Reimer smiled nonchalantly and said, "They will naturally follow my orders. I use my head and they use their hands and feet. It's fair." Glenn sighed helplessly, grumbling, "You're 50 years old and you're still like a child." Reimer laughed and replied, "People change when they die. Ah, but I'm an elf." Reimer asked a question that made Glenn serious. "Bringing someone here, is it because of your youngest grandson?" Reimer crossed his arms and said, "Lady Sylvia also came to me with a request, but I didn't expect the Patriarch himself to come all this way." Hearing this, Glenn was surprised Sylvia came here. Reimer replied, "She asked me not to let Rayon get hurt." He put his hands on his hips, advising, "If that's your intention, then perhaps your trip this time is wasted. Patriarch, you yourself said that no one can interfere with training ground number 5, not even you." Suddenly his attitude changed, becoming serious. "If you're worried about your youngest grandson, then I'm no exception." Glenn replied nonchalantly. Of course, Reimer was surprised by his reaction, looking bewildered, huh? Glenn sternly reminded him again, "Don't reduce the intensity of the training, keep increasing it until you see fit, and eliminate the weak." Reimer looked shocked and covered his mouth with his hand. "Then your grandson will be kicked out, Patriarch, do you mean?" Reimer immediately switched to his narcissistic mode, shyly covering his face. "Oh my, you love your descendants more than I thought. Is it because you couldn't take good care of Lady Sylvia that you're pouring your affection onto that child?" Glenn, hearing this, was slightly annoyed and said, "If you weren't my comrade in arms, I would have already blown your head off." Glenn instructed him not to go easy on the boy and to clearly distinguish between the good and the bad, only leaving behind those who met the standards for training. Reimer turned his head with a smile on his face. Then, rather than being disrespectful, "I shall obey." Glenn, having achieved his wish, turned and left. "All right, do whatever you want. I'm leaving." Reimer raised his hand in a cheerful greeting. "Yes, take care on your way, Patriarch." Reimer crossed his arms, looking out the window, muttering, "Raon, I'm very curious about what you are." The system appeared at this moment. Third Fire Heart star acquired. Fire Heart reached 3 stars. Your body and soul have become slightly stronger due to the effect of the 3-star Fire Heart. Strength, agility, and stamina have increased due to the effect of the 3-star Fire Heart. Mana, affinity, willpower, and energy have been enhanced due to the effect of the 3-star Fire Heart. Water resistance reached 3 stars. One of the 9 strands of the Frost Curse has disappeared. Rayon sat on the bed controlling the system, thinking to himself, 3 stars is a completely different level. My body's perception has increased, and my mind is also clearer than before. He remembered Sylvia's worried expression. "How could you push yourself so hard on just the first day?" He said painfully, "It just happened naturally." Thanks to Sylvia's intervention, his arm and leg muscles had started to develop without much difficulty. He touched the muscles on his arm. "Besides, this magic status window is further accelerating my growth. Life is like a chessboard, but this is just the beginning of the Zarat family's notoriously difficult training. 3 stars is just the necessary foundation to start as an apprentice in the family. Only with a solid foundation can you build a tall and spacious house and live through the days ahead." His anticipation was for those in the front ranks of the army. By displaying outstanding achievements, he would shut the mouths of those who had mocked him. And the primary target was Robert, so after all, St. Heaven saw Dirus Robert. Rayon's expression was pensive, as he thought, "I won't stop until I slit his throat." Suddenly at this moment, a voice startled him. "Raon." It turned out to be Sylvia. "You're not asleep yet." He was flustered. "Ah, Mum." He wondered, why is Mum here at this hour? She sat down on the bed and said, "Tomorrow you'll go to the training grounds to start basic training. Right, I came because I have something to tell you." She smiled gently and warmly. "Do you really have to go?" Then she confided, "Actually, I still want to stop you. You always suppress yourself, even when you're in pain. I don't know what to do if you get injured all over during training." Sylvia placed her hand on Rayon's shoulder, a little reluctant. "It's not that I don't want you to go, but just 1 year, postpone it for just 1 year, okay, dear?" But his answer was already decided, making her heart skip a beat. "I cannot step back." He remembered the gazes of others as they looked at him and said, "Every time I see relatives and acquaintances, every time I see their expressions as if they're looking at someone weak." He sadly placed his hand on his chest, saying, "When they look down on Mum, I feel so angry, so I cannot falter." His determination was immense. "As long as I train hard, they won't be able to look down on you anymore." These words completely moved Sylvia. She smiled and bowed her head, her cheeks slightly flushed. She bit her fingernails and said, "You're so smart, Rayon. You've probably realized the reason I have to live alone and why people curse me." Then she recounted her love story. "I met your father while on a mission and fell in love with him, but because of your father's knight status, it was very difficult for us to be together. And then for love, she made a painful decision, so I destroyed my mana channels and core energy and left the family." Sylvia decided to reveal a long-held secret. "Actually, you have an older sister. She's 2 years older than you. Her name is Saya. The peaceful life didn't last long. While we were living peacefully, we were recognized and assassinated by the army from Eden. She and her husband were forced to take up swords and fight. Your father wasn't that strong, and I was pregnant." Sylvia's eyes filled with fear, "So we couldn't do anything. A miracle happened, but it was too late. Thankfully, your father was always secretly protecting us. But they were far away by the time they arrived. It was too late." She was pained to face the truth. Her tears flowed uncontrollably. At that time, your father and older sister had already died. Sylvia could only offer a faint smile whenever she mentioned that I had nowhere else to go. No other choice. I was forced to return to the family, so I am considered a sinner of this family. Her face was full of pain. "I don't even know what to say to your grandfather." After hearing all of that, Rayon thought to himself, so selfish. Sylvia is so selfish. He observed and judged her. She had abandoned the family's responsibilities on her shoulders to pursue her own happiness, returning only to find shelter for him. He understood the reason why she was treated so harshly. But Sylvia was there for him, and she was also the one who gave him this new life. For the first time, he had met someone who truly loved him. Even if everyone thought she was selfish, at least to him, she was his only mother in 2 lifetimes. He asked Mother, "Do you regret it? Do you want to go back to the time before you left home?" She smiled and replied, "No, I don't regret it at all." She recalled the happy times with her beloved. "I lived as if I didn't exist in this house. Only after leaving here did I feel such vitality. That was enough." The smile on her lips gradually became brighter and a happy expression appeared. "I was truly happy then, and now I am happy to have you in my life." Sylvia lowered her eyes and continued, "I'm so sorry, Rayon. I'm not a good mother." Rayon quickly comforted her, placing his hand on hers. "It's okay, I'm fine, so don't worry." He looked at her, thinking to himself, "Even if others criticize you as selfish, you are my precious and irreplaceable mother." He looked at Sylvia's face, which was tearful with emotion. "Revenge will be successful after I help her regain her position as the heir of the Zarat family." Tears of happiness streamed down Sylvia's cheeks. She couldn't hold back and burst into tears. Rayon was flustered. "Mother, why are you crying?" It was late at night. Rayon stepped out of the room, sighing wearily. It took his mother a long time to calm down. He sat down on the bed, talking to himself. "I should check the progress of the fire heart and then sleep. The training starts soon." He crossed his legs and began to press his hands together. A green aura emanated. At this moment he thought to himself, "Not bad. The rotation speed of the fire heart has become faster after reaching 3 stars. If 3 stars is like this, how fast will it be when it reaches the intermediate stage?" Suddenly a small flame burst forth powerfully, making him flinch slightly. A voice suddenly spoke. "Finally it has come." The flame grinned mindlessly. "Your wrath has reached me, essence of the Emperor, in the name of the Demon Lord, the second of the demonic realm. Wrath, I shall take revenge for you." Rayon didn't understand what was happening. "What is this thing?" The system suddenly appeared mysterious. Ability activated. Wrath. Ability created. Wrath has awakened. It narrowed its eyes, examining your body and soul. It wondered. Why is there a child here? Rayon asked, puzzled. What are you? It was just as bewildered as he was. I should be asking that. Who are you? The wrath I sensed couldn't possibly come from a brat like you. Its eyes widened. Then it corrected itself. No, it is you deep within your heart. You are concealing a very deep resentment. The essence of the Emperor slithered onto his body. If that's the case, then offer your soul to me in return. I will help you take the revenge you so desire. Rayon thought of Robert. It appeared because of my rage towards Dyrus before I died, but it's too late now. He looked straight at it and said, No, I don't need your help. I will take revenge myself. Incomprehensible, it coiled around him, while he thought, I will never have a second chance. I can't let someone else take revenge for me. Then he said, I will be the one to take Dyrus's head. It spoke. It seems you're mistaken about something, kid. It bared its fangs, correcting him. I didn't come here to negotiate with you. It flared up with a large flame and said, I, the essence of the Emperor, have already made my decision. Rayon was confused, his expression a little worried, rubbing his shoulder thinking, what is this? Why is this flame so cold? Could it be? The flame blazed fiercely and said menacingly, You just need to offer your body to me. Then it lunged wildly towards him. He was stunned, his whole body stiffening, unable to react. The essence of the Emperor continued to flare up, growing larger and larger, completely overwhelming Rayon. At this moment, the glass of water on the bedside table slightly cracked. He clutched his chest, his body heavy, thinking so cold. My body, even my mind, feels like it's freezing over. Its elemental attribute is ice, not fire. The face of the essence of the Emperor gradually appeared, speaking in an almost hypnotic voice. Think about him. Unleash your wrath. Even if they are gods, I, the essence of the Emperor, will end them. His whole body trembled with cold. Thank goodness for my water-resistant skill. I can endure a little longer, but this attack isn't just affecting temperature. He was a little worried, facing this being. An ominous feeling arose. It kept inciting his anger. The essence of the Emperor whispered in his ear, He will crush your head, then eat your flesh, and drink your blood. Quickly surrender, and offer your body to me. He thought of his loved ones. If I give him this body, who knows what he'll do to Sylvia and the servants in the house. Even if I die, I can't offer him my body. The essence of the Emperor returned to its blue flame form. If you unleash your wrath and accept me, you will feel at ease. But you choose to continue struggling meaninglessly. I initially didn't want to harm this body, so I could use it later, but I don't think that will work. It kept muttering in his ear. He won't go easy on you anymore. He'll just eat you alive and be done with it. His expression was now extremely painful, his body feeling like it was about to shatter. He gritted his teeth, enduring, clutching his shoulders tightly. I've reached my limit. This body can't last much longer at this rate. I'll die soon. I want to live. Suddenly he flinched, his eyes widening. Then he clasped his hands together and controlled the spiritual power. If I can resist the ice aura, thanks to the water-resistant skill, then there's a chance I can also endure the physical and mental pain when using the fire heart. If I want to live, this is the only way. At this moment, the fire and water skills intertwined, surprising the essence of the Emperor. Its expression was bewildered, It was furious, unable to believe the truth, I just awakened. How can this be happening? A lowly human dares to challenge me. Rayon's face was full of determination. I will take revenge myself. I refuse to let a lingering spirit possess my body. Hearing this, the essence of the Emperor was so angry that it contorted its form, shouting, Lingering spirit! How dare you call the demon lord of the demonic realm a lingering spirit? Rayon calmly replied, And you dare to call yourself a demon lord when you can't even defeat me? Why do you keep provoking me, or is the real demon lord already dead? You should just disappear. It scowled. How dare you mock me? Sweat poured from his brow. He thought to himself. He said he just awakened. Maybe that's why he can't use his full power. Suddenly the system appeared supportive ability. Why suddenly? The essence of the Emperor recognized it and shouted, That's my power, the status window. Why do you possess it? Rayon was a little surprised. His stats were now clearly displayed. Rayon wondered, what is the status window with the messages? What does it have to do with you, essence of the Emperor? Even though it was angry, it still replied, Of course it's related, the system, I created it myself. But do you know why you can use it? The more it spoke, the more confused he became. The system, for what? It seemed to be toying with him, its expression sullen as it replied, "It's none of your business," Rayon still asked, "Is this also to promote growth?" The essence of the Emperor, not expecting him to see through it, stammered, "How do you know?" Rayon's expression was calm, as he thought he can't even control his emotions. No wonder he's wrath. He felt the flow of energy in his body connecting with the system. It's strange, the effect of the fire heart is even stronger than in my previous life, so it's all thanks to the system. The essence of the Emperor was gradually losing patience, angrily shouting, "Quickly offer your body and return my power to me." It spoke loudly and opened its mouth wide. "Give it back now." It clung to his body. "What do you think you're doing?" Rayon casually flicked his hand, his expression emotionless, saying, "Worth a try, though I didn't even use much mana in that punch." He crossed his arms, looking at the essence of the Emperor, raging. "How dare a mere human treat me like this?" Rayon thought to himself, he's an invisible spirit, so aura won't do anything to him. He's been showing off like that for so long, yet no one has appeared. He waved his hand, making the flame fly to another spot. "Perhaps I'm the only one who can see and sense him." Suddenly it shouted, "Take this." To Rayon's surprise, a blue flame wrapped around his wrist, and immediately it formed a bracelet with a snowflake pattern. Rayon looked at it, wondering, "This is..." The essence of the Emperor's voice echoed from the bracelet. "My seal has only just been broken, but my power will return. When the time is right, you will have no way to stop me. I will haunt you until you have no more wrath or resentment left." Rayon frowned, a little annoyed. He's really troublesome. I really want to kill him. He imagined Sylvia sleeping peacefully, but if I force him to separate from me, the system might disappear, and who knows what he'll do to Sylvia and Helen to get to me. Rayon brought the bracelet close to his eyes, examining it carefully. Keeping him by my side to monitor is better than trusting my own ability to improve. Hopefully I can suppress him. Outside it was late at night, the moon high overhead. The two of them were still arguing, a bit irrelevant, "But you ended up choosing a flower bracelet. Doesn't suit you at all. My personal preference. Don't judge. All right, whatever." Finally, a new day began. The mist gradually dissipated, and clouds shrouded the towering hills. Helen was trying to comfort Sylvia. "Young master will be all right." Sylvia was tense. "I know, but still." Suddenly Rayon's voice rang out, "I'm ready." He walked down the stairs with a bright smile on his face. "I'm off to the training grounds." Helen instructed, "Rayon, young master, please be careful, don't push yourself too hard," he replied. "I remember, Helen, will you be going home?" Helen spoke to the sniffling Sylvia. "Lady Sylvia, if you see the young master off with such a sad face, he will feel disheartened." Hearing this, she immediately sat down and placed her hand on his shoulder. "Rayon, be careful on your way, don't worry too much. And as I told you, if it's too difficult, just give up. Don't overdo it." Immediately after that, he left, not forgetting to wave goodbye. Sylvia watched her son's retreating figure and said, "Everything will be all right, right?" Helen comforted her. "Young master has improved a lot. He will overcome the training and return." Her eyes were full of sadness. "Yes, compared to before, he's much better now, but this child..." She recalled past moments Helen was trying to persuade her. Lady Sylvia Savit this time is known to be very discerning in reca. With young master Rayon's efforts, he will surely succeed. Rayon then hugged her and reassured her. "That's right, mother. I promised, didn't I? I won't let myself get hurt." Hearing his mature words, Sylvia shed tears of happiness and a little sadness. "Don't worry, I will definitely keep my promise." Sylvia placed her hand on her chest, recalling Rayon's voice. "Just believe in me." Her lips silently called his name, Rayon. Watching his retreating figure, she couldn't help but cry, trembling. "Come back safe and sound." At Rishat training ground number 5. The trainees were getting acquainted. "Which house are you from?" "I bet they're not too strict with the trainees, right? My parents told me I have to get into the top 10. Rayon looked around silently, thinking just as rumored, there are a lot of people here. He walked alone, ignoring the children playing around. Not only relatives came to the Rishad training grounds, but also those recommended by the Chuhal family. He kept pondering, following Helen's words. Because there are so many people this year, they even had to build 6 training grounds. Suddenly, a few voices caught his attention. "Isn't that him?" Some people looked at him and whispered, "Look at his scrawny muscles, they'll probably break with just a touch. A sickly guy like him will probably run away halfway through. Why did he even come here to show off?" Not only that, but they also scrutinized the essence of the emperor. What's with that old gaudy flower bracelet, so outdated? The essence of the emperor, hearing this, was furious. "What did you say?" It stepped in front of the two guys, cursing nonsensically. "You trash, you blind noble bastards! The essence of the emperor will crush your bones and gouge out your eyes." Suddenly Rayon spoke up. "You two, what's the point of arguing?" He said with a calm expression, "Say it to my face then." He looked at them and said straightforwardly, "Don't you know it's wrong to badmouth people behind their backs?" The two guys were startled. "How dare you? Clearly you're a spoiled brat, forced to live in the annex. You're from an outer family, not a direct descendant." Hearing those words, he not only didn't lose his composure, but tilted his head and asked back, "What status do you have to use the word dare, when you yourselves only come from a collateral line?" It seemed he had hit a nerve. The two guys were speechless. Isn't that word only used for opponents of lower standing than oneself? One of them, losing his temper, lunged forward and grabbed his collar, swinging a fist. "You really are a rude bastard." Rayon's eyes flashed fiercely, his expression terrifying. Suddenly a voice rang out, "Stop right there!" It turned out to be Bren from behind, saying, "Training is about to begin. What are you doing in front of outsiders? You dare to tarnish the reputation of the Rishat clan." The two guys, seeing him, scratched their heads awkwardly and stammered, "Senior Bren, I apologize." He walked up to Raon, arms crossed, and said, "And you should also know your place." His expression was extremely arrogant. "You're just a tiny speck of dust that I could easily brush away. If you don't want to be kicked out of the annex, then behave yourself." Bren thought of the people in the annex and was envious the little brat in front of him had attracted all the patriarch's attention, but by using his circumstances instead of his own actual abilities. He angrily gritted his teeth. An uneducated fool who shouldn't even have the chance to train dares to. He turned and left, not forgetting to threaten Rayon, "If you're not planning to participate in the training, then get out of here right now. Otherwise stay out of my sight, because you'll never be able to pass this training." Rayon casually replied, surprising Bren, "I've heard enough of your nonsense." It was time for him to retort. "You're from the direct lineage, but you don't have any rank. You plan to kick me out of the annex. You think you can do that when you're not even a trainee yet?" Saying this, his expression became somewhat dissatisfied. "Oh, I guess you might have a chance to do that if you go cry and beg your father." Bren made a disgusted face, saying, "A collateral descendant dares to." Just as a fight was about to break out, the nearby door was suddenly flung open by Reimer's long, alluring legs. He seemed excited by the situation, saying loudly, "Whoa! You guys are already fighting, I guess that's the spirit of the youth." Rayon, seeing him, immediately recognized him. "Isn't that Reimer, the light sword of the Rishat family? I heard he retired after his core energy was damaged." Reimer was still smiling. "Or how about you guys continue fighting after the opening ceremony? Haha." Rayon's thoughts continued. "I didn't expect him to be here." Bren clicked his tongue and turned away, leaving. Reimer said loudly to all the trainees, "Welcome everyone, I am the chief instructor who will oversee your training process." He smiled brightly, introducing himself. "My name is Reimer. I look forward to our smooth cooperation." Reimer stood with his hands on his hips, saying casually, "I heard there are 160 trainees who came to participate in the training, but there are only 8 instructors. No matter how I look at it, that's too many trainees, so we'll reduce that number through an examination." Saying this, Reimer's expression was extremely enthusiastic. "Exactly, we'll only keep 1/4 of you." The people below were shocked. "Only keep that many people? No way." "What's going on, teacher, is just separating the good from the bad. You know, I only want to choose a small number of outstanding individuals." The essence of the emperor, hearing this, flew into a rage. "You arrogant bastard! How dare you look down on the essence of the emperor? I'll tear off the ears of this elf." Rayon grabbed the bracelet. "Quiet.